Hey y'all, it's Felix Fletcher here, back with another video for you. This time I'm going to be talking about the top 20 tips for beginners in Baldur's Gate 3. I really am enjoying this game a lot. I would say it's up there with Elden Ring as one of my favorite games in a long time. So I just wanted to give some tips for new players. If you're a little intimidated by it, don't be. It's not that difficult of a game. You can set the difficulty. I would recommend balance. So let's get into those tips now. Tip number 20 is about arrows. So if you see a very rare arrows, they're like magenta colored, they'll be like a dragon slaying arrow or a humanoid slaying arrow. Make sure to go ahead and buy those because those are going to come in really handy. They do tons of damage. Also, if you see a smoke powder bomb arrow, I would recommend those. Now there are some other kinds of arrows like fire and ice. They're not as useful. There's certain battle where there's enemies that only have one health, where it could come in handy there. But other than that, I would really recommend the humanoid slaying, dragon slaying. Pick those up anytime you see them. Number 19, explore everywhere. So in this game, at certain points in the story, you can't go back to previous locations. So it's a good idea just to fully explore the map while you're there, because you may miss important quests or important items. So make sure you're exploring fully if you're into that type of thing of finding everything. Number 18, supplies. Camp supplies can often be found in barrels and crates around the world. So especially at the beginning of the game, you may want to start out searching every crate and barrel. But if you want to save a lot of time in the later game, you don't have to search every crate and barrel because I haven't found that there's actually anything super rare or equipment in them. It's mostly just like camp supplies or arrows or maybe a few potions or something. So don't feel compelled to have to explore every barrel, but especially early on in the game when you might need camp supplies, yeah, I would go ahead and just search the barrels and crates then. Speaking of searching, there's a function you can do to search, and I didn't know until later in the game, past when I was past the first area, that you could do that. In PlayStation, it's the thumbstick. You push it down, it'll show you all the items nearby that you can interact with. This will help you so that you don't miss important items. I mash that thing when I'm running around so I can see what containers I can interact with and what items I can pick up. So use the search feature often. Feats. It may seem daunting at first how many feats there are. Whenever you do get your characters gets to pick one. So if you're having trouble picking a feat for your warrior, your two-hander, I would recommend Great Weapon Master because that's going to give you an extra bonus attack, and bonus attacks in this game are amazing. So for your warrior, go with the Great Weapon one. For your spellcaster, there's a spell sniper one that gets you a bonus on getting crits. But then the other one I'd recommend for almost everybody's tough. It gives you extra hit points. So I would go for that. The second feat for my warrior with the movement one, it lets you move farther. Trust me, you're going to love having that. And if your warrior already has good armor and stuff, you may not need the tough bonus. I found I didn't need it for my warrior. I gave it to my squishier characters like the mages. So yeah, those are good feats. Tough is a good one. Great Weapon Master for your warrior. And Sharpshooter is another good one for your ranged attacker, archer, rogue, ranger. Let's talk about scrolls. They're not as useful as some of the other things, but you want to keep an eye out for certain ones that will be useful. And you could probably sell some of the other ones for money. But they are nice to have. My first playthrough, I kept them all and really realized I wasn't using them. The ones to look out for are invisibility, fly, misty step. Yeah, I would keep those. Oh yeah, dimension door. I would keep those because movement is extremely important, especially during certain quests. So you want to make sure to have some of those on hand. All right, battles. Let's talk about a couple battle tips. I'm not going to go too in depth, but if you see a mage in battle, usually they'll be holding a quarterstaff. That means you know that you need to kill that person quickly, or I usually target them first. Sometimes you can kill them before they even get a turn because they're super squishy. Another battle tip I have is summons. My first playthrough, I had a cleric and a wizard who both can summon, so they could summon an elemental or an angel. That gets your party members up to 6, and they're semi-permanent. They'll stay as long as they don't die, or if you don't long rest. So definitely use those summons wisely. Sometimes it's better to summon them before you get into battle, that way you don't have to waste a turn summoning them. So that's just a few little battle tips for you. Movement. Movement is extremely important in this game during battle, and there's a couple things that make it easier. I would recommend getting Misty Step on every single character you can. A lot of mages or the druid comes with Misty Steps or character classes. But if you don't have it, like for my Barbarian, I wear the Misty Step necklace. So you want to look out for equipment that has Misty Step on it because it's going to be extremely helpful. Try to have Misty Step on every single one of your characters if possible. Other movement spells like Dimension Door or Fly can also be really handy. Um, so keep an eye out for those. Alright, another thing when you're searching around for, you want to keep an eye out for, is Mind Flayer Specimen Jars. Now, these give you extra powers from your Mind Flayer, so if you see them laying around, go ahead and pick them up. I would recommend getting every single one you see, that way you can maximize the powers that you have. Next, let's talk about rarity. Green is uncommon, blue is rare, um, and then very rare is like magenta, and there's also another one before that, an orange one that's legendary. So legendary is the best. Magenta is very rare, which is the next tier. Then rare, which is blue, and then green. And sometimes you'll see an orange item, but yeah, those are the main tiers. So anytime you see a very rare magenta item, that's a good thing to pay attention to. A lot of the useful items are rare. And then even uncommon items like the green ones, especially rings and stuff, they may give you a bonus that's really useful. So I would recommend keeping all the green rings, all the green necklaces, because you never know when that little buff is going to help out your character, especially with rings. As far as weapons go, usually the green weapons and blue weapons are outclassed by the very rare ones. But yeah, you may still want to keep them in your chest just in case you have some sort of combo. Because I've heard even like one of the green weapons, there's a combo that makes you like almost invincible. So yeah, keep that in mind. I usually keep everything in my chest. Alright, let's talk about poisons. Simple toxins, there's drow poison, there's basic poisons. Use those up. There's a lot in the game. They give them to you in chests and stuff. You'll find if you don't use them, by the end of the game, you'll have tons of them and you'll regret not using them. And it's kind of hard to know how to play a rogue or a ranger in this game at first. You want to use your bonus turn to apply those poisons and then attack. Yeah, it can be really hard to remember to use those poisons, but go ahead and use them up because there's really no point in keeping them the whole game. Alright, next tip. Read every book. Read every book. You just want to go ahead and push X or whatever to read the book, and then you can close out of it. You don't have to really read it, but you could get a quest or an updated quest by reading those. So you definitely want to read every book you find. I just read it, pick it up, sell it later. That way you know you read it. You won't miss a quest that way. Alright, let's talk about throwables and potions. The potions to look out for are speed potion. That's a really good one. It gives you an extra action. So if I ever see that in the shop, I buy it. Bloodlust is also another really good one. If you see that, go ahead and get that. Because that's another one that gives you extra turns, extra actions. Anything that does that is really useful in this game. Angelic Slumber. Now, I really slept on that one, no pun intended, and I put it in my chest. And at the end of the game, I realized I really needed it because it can be used to restore your spells without having to camp. So, and it also restores hit points too, like you rested. So, Angelic Slumber is a good one to have on hand almost all the time. One of the best throwables is the smoke powder bombs, so keep an eye out for those because those can be really powerful, throwable. Alchemist Fire has its use, but I only had like one battle where there's a bunch of enemies that have 1 hit points. The Alchemist Fire was useful in, and the Acid Vial also not as useful as the Smoke Powder Bomb. So that would be the main one to look out for when it comes to throwables. Alright, next tip, save often. You can even save during dialogue, so if you're about to make an important choice and it shows like persuasion or something in brackets, that means you're going to have to do a roll. So save before the roll. And then if you fail it, you can use inspiration points, which you get sometimes, to either try to re-roll, or if you run out of those, you could reload if it's a really important decision. Some are, and it's worth reloading. Alright, party composition. So for your first time around, you may want to have a warrior type, like a barbarian or a paladin or a fighter, a healer, like a cleric or a druid, some sort of mage, like a wizard, a warlock, what's the other one? Or a sorcerer, and some sort of archer, like a rogue or a ranger. I would recommend a ranger over a rogue because a ranger gets 2 attacks eventually. Alright, let me tell you a cool little tip that I didn't find out till later. You can hide all of your armor. So if you don't like how your armor looks, you can hide it if you go in the menu, and in PlayStation it's push triangle to hide it. You see a little eyeball or an X. That is such a cool feature. You can run around in your undies if you want and actually still be having all of your armor on if you just want that look. Or you can run around in just your camp clothes. You can also hide your helmet during certain things, so go and check that out. Alright, let's talk about a certain thing about shops. Now, you can craft potions, but I don't think it's that useful. If you don't want to pick up every alchemical ingredient, you don't have to, because the shops restock potions. They restock healing potions. So my recommendation would be just to buy healing potions. That way you don't have to make them. Although, I keep all the alchemical ingredients in the game, and I usually only end up getting a few useful potions out of it, which seems like a waste. So alchemy is not that great, but Gale, as a wizard, does have like a transmutation thing where he gets a bonus to alchemy. So I'm going to be trying that this second playthrough and see if I get more potions that way. But yeah, shops restock potions. Invisibility potions are really useful. So if you want to grab those, and all the types of healing potions, make sure to grab them. Be careful because you actually can lose access to shops in this game. Either the person dies or you move on. So you want to buy everything that you want from those shops. Like if there's a very rare item or a rare item you want, buy it. Because money doesn't have any other use in this game besides buying that stuff from shops. There's like one quest at the end game. Um, it does take a lot of money, but I think there's other ways around it, like conversation. I did that quest. I just gave her all the money, and then I ended up stealing it back. So make sure you buy what you want, because you may not be able to go back to the shops once you progress the game, and then you'll miss out on whatever items they had. Alright, next topic is Respec. Once you get the Respec guy, Respec Shadowheart or your cleric into a life cleric. I can't emphasize this enough. The cleric that Shadowheart is like a disguise sneaky type cleric, which sucks. The life cleric has a special prayer that restores tons of health to everybody, and it will get you up if you're on the ground, knocked out, or I think even dead. So it is an extremely useful power. I would recommend the cleric as the best healer, the life cleric. So now on my second playthrough, I respec Shadowheart to that life cleric immediately, as soon as you can. Also, respec, or if you want to use Asterion, respec him to a ranger, or get somebody respec to a ranger, because a ranger is better than a rogue. Rogues are a little bit more sneaky, but I haven't really figured out sneak attack is all that useful. In most situations, the ranger eventually gets 2 attack actions, and that just can't be emphasized how useful that is enough. I don't know why my rogue doesn't have 2 attacks. Maybe rogues do get that. If anyone knows about that, let me know. But I would recommend just going to a ranger, because a ranger is just better. Even the ranger even has healing spells too. So yeah, I would definitely recommend the ranger over the rogue. You can still pick locks and stuff anyway, so. Alright, let's talk about the containers. You can pick up some of the containers, so pay attention. If you look, you can actually pick them up and put them in your inventory and then send them to your camp chest. Organize your inventory early, because yeah, in your traveler's chest you can put different containers and then have one for like potions, one for armor, one for jewelry. I would recommend doing that early so that later on in the game you don't have this chest that's just full of a bunch of unorganized stuff. Organize your alchemy components, your camp supplies. Trust me, you'll thank me later when you have tons of stuff and your inventory is organized. Alright, and the number one tip is to steal. You can steal from vendors in this game. You can steal money, you can steal scrolls, potions, equipment. Now, if it shows a green circle, that means you have a really good chance. If it shows a red little sliver, that means you have a really low chance. And it seems like money is the hardest to steal, of course. That and the heavier equipment. But yeah, on my second playthrough now, I've robbed all the vendors blind. I have like 14k. Some of them are in spots that it's really hard to steal from because there'll be a lot of people around. But save often when you're stealing. Make sure you hide. Make sure you creep up on them. And then I often save right before I'm about to do the steal action. That way if I have to reload, if they catch me, I can just go right back to that point. So save first. Use your rogue. Look out for equipment that increases your sleight of hand. There's like my rogue has gloves, or I think it's just gloves that I've found that have a sleight of hand bonus. But put those on anytime you're getting ready to steal, and you can rob the vendors blind, and you'll have so much powerful equipment if you do that. And yeah, that's all my top 20 tips for new players for Baldur's Gate 3. I hope you had as much fun with the game as I did. Thanks for watching.